Jenna, thank you so much for sitting down with me.
I am so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's great to get to know you over the last few months working out together at
Mhm.
Metabolic, and excited to talk with you a little bit more about your story. So I usually like to start off with the custom question of where were you born and where'd you grow up?
So I grew up here in Colony. I lived here my whole life and lived in Colony until about 6 months ago. So I've been here my whole life.
What was it like growing up here?
I am the youngest of four siblings, so we were busy often. I just remember always being outside with the neighborhood kids and always having like games of manhunt and just always being like super, super active. But I really enjoyed living in the Colony area. I felt like it was like the perfect place to grow up.
Now, I know you have loved to dance pretty much
Mhm.
most of your life. When did you actually start becoming a dancer?
So, about 2 or 3 years old. So, I started really young. My oldest brother, we're like 4 years apart, and he started dancing around the age, if I'm not mistaken, about like 4, 5, or 6 ish. So, my mom also worked at the dance studio that we grew up dancing at. So, from the young age of 2 or 3, I was just always at the dance studio, and it kind of just took off from there.
So that's where you kind of were starting as a dancer, just taking
Yeah.
classes at the dance studio?
Yeah. Yeah. And I, was running around there and it just kind of stuck.
Do you remember kind of the feeling as a younger, I guess a girl, younger girl, feeling like you were falling in love with it?
Yes. And it wasn't something that I had seen from afar and was like, "Ooh, I want to try that." Like, I think it was just something that was a part of me. My mom danced. She was a clogger growing up, so I think it's just like in our blood. It feels like it's just something that we are. It's just a part of our lives. It always has been. And my oldest sister, she also danced a little bit too. So it's just something that even now throughout the years, it's just something that really has bonded our family together. My niece dances, my other niece dances. So it's just a family thing, really.
It's really cool you say that, because for me, similar kind of life journey, but as a performer, more so as an actor. But I did do a lot of
Yeah.
singing and dancing.
Yeah.
So my parents were both professional actors. They were
wow.
in Actors Equity and in the
Cool.
Screen Actors Guild.
All right.
So for you at the dance studio, it brings back memories for me of doing community theater. Well, actually with my dad. The first play that I was ever in, I was 6 years old, and I played a bunny in a production of Winnie the Pooh.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
But I just remember kind of the same thing of like feeling like this was just this magical place where
Yeah.
you could kind of do anything and become whoever you wanted.
Absolutely.
And I know it's different for dancing, but when you started to really get into it, even more so, like going through puberty, like getting into high school, like how did that journey for you as a dancer evolve?
It became more of like my place of escape. Like, I mean, middle school, high school, like those times are hard for kids. And there's a lot that you're like discovering about yourself. And dance for me felt like the perfect outlet to kind of discover all of these things about myself. And I felt like it really helped me to figure out the way that I was feeling. Like, dance is a very emotional art form. And so it was really nice to kind of, if I was feeling upset, if I was feeling happy, if I was feeling goofy, if I was feeling, maybe a little nostalgic, whatever it was, like dance really helped me to kind of feel those feelings and understand those feelings probably more than I would have been able to if I wasn't a dancer or didn't have those avenues.
Do you have any moments that come to mind specifically from that time period that are more memorable, of either kind of emotional realizations or just kind of tentpole memories?
I remember being like junior, senior in high school. So until I was actually in college, my parents were together. But they had been, kind of in and out of deciphering if they were going to stay together, if they weren't going to stay together. And I just remember dance really helping to anchor me, I should say, you know, especially in high school, junior, senior, like there's a lot of things that are changing. And so to be kind of battling with the idea of like, oh, my parents, are they going to stay together? Are they not going to stay together? And so just kind of having that, like I said, that escape and that avenue to kind of help to ground me in a time that was like really uncertain it was really beneficial for me.
How old were you when you were going through that period of not being sure about whether your parents were going to stay together or not?
So I was a junior or senior in high school. So I was about like 16, 17-ish.
Okay. And now you mentioned your brother, and I know we'll get into a lot of the stuff you do with your brother with your dance company, but at that point in your life, what was your relationship like with your brother as you two were, in theory, dancing together to some extent, figuring this all out as siblings, dealing with your parents' situation?
Yeah. So the difference in age between myself and my oldest sister is 10 years. So when I was 16, 17, she was 26, 27. Same thing, my next sister down, she was in her 20s. And my brother at this point was in college. So he was away. My sisters, they were not living at home. So we kind of dealt with it digitally, like through text messages and all of that. But it was something that as siblings brought us together for sure, because it was kind of, you know, whatever happens with the two of them, we still have each other. And that's not going to change, even if that changes with them. So that situation, even though it was not great and it was a lot of struggles and a lot of, you know, emotional tribulations, what came out of it was a stronger bond between my siblings and I.
That's really cool. And I'm curious, you know, my sister did some plays with me as well growing up and in high school. She also was a dancer. My sister was the captain of our high school dance team.
Oh, cool.
And I was not as that level of dance.
Yeah.
I got into dance with the simple mindset of, I like girls do ballet, I should do ballet.
Yes.
Didn't quite work out as simply as I thought it might.
No, that ballet is not as, you know, fun as it may look.
Yeah. But when you were going through a lot of that, uncertainty, naturally, I'm sure questions and kind of processing all of that. I'm curious, you know, you mentioned your brother is a dancer. We've talked about that. We'll talk more about it. Movement is medicine as a concept, and especially thinking about that with dance. What would you two talk about, presumably, like within some of the context of dance language? And because you mentioned like processing some of your feelings through dance, I'm just curious what some of those conversations would have been like.
I think that for us, dance had just such a different role in our lives. Like, it wasn't a hobby. It wasn't, you know, something we did just because we were really good at it. Like, it just had such a deeper meaning for us. And so a lot of our conversations just consisted of like, how can we keep just like getting better? Like, how can we keep elevating this? How can we keep pushing ourselves? And how can we keep, you know, discovering more? And just like, I guess like just the hunger behind it, just like always being hungry for more and more and more. I feel like that was what a lot of our conversations consisted of, is just like, how can we be better? How can we keep doing what we need to do in order to achieve the things that we want to achieve in this art form as a career? And so it was a lot of motivation. It was a lot of inspiration between the two of us.
What age were you roughly when you decided, I want to make this more of a career? I want to figure out a way to make this work.
Yeah. Pinpointing an age is really difficult for me because I danced my whole life, there was not really a time frame where anything other than dance as a career was an option. Like, sure, I guess I could say in high school is when I actually started thinking about a career, because maybe you don't think so thoroughly about it in middle school. But when I started to teach, I think was the turning point for me, because I had always been like, oh yeah, I want to be Chris Brown's backup dancer. But like, that is so, what a crazy thought. But when I started teaching, I was a freshman in high school, so about like 14, 15. And my mentor at the time was like, you should totally get into teaching. And she got me into it. She taught me just so many things about teaching and like how to deal with kids and how to work with kids. And I think that was when it was kind of like, oh, I really like doing this. I like the idea of educating, and I love the reward that I get when I see a kid who thinks they can't do it, and then I help them, and then they actually can do it. And that sort of trade off in terms of I give you knowledge and you succeed and do all the things that you dreamt of doing is when I really was like, I think this is something that I could see myself doing forever.
I know in life it feels often that it's a choice between pursuing what you're talented at versus what you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And those are not necessarily the same vehicles to make money to support yourself. But from the standpoint you just laid out that you were always really into dance, you've clearly had a passion for it, and you're talented at it.
Thank you.
What was that journey like to have those really feeling like I'm in aligned on that and I'm going to go all in it to make this happen?
So I was very naive going into college, just being like, yeah, I'm good at it, so it's gonna happen. And that's just not how life works at all. And I started my college career going to school pursuing a dance degree, and I loved it. It was so much fun. It was challenging. It was something new that I wasn't used to doing because I just grew up dancing in a studio my whole life, and then this was college. It was different, and I loved it so much. But that turning point of saying to myself, pursuing that dance degree was only going to get me so far in the path that I personally wanted to take. And so it was a hard pill to swallow, but I ended up changing my major and transferring home to Albany and pursuing my business degree. And that was really when things started to come together in how I envisioned things happening, because I no longer could use my talents in dance to get me to where I wanted to go. It had to be my book smarts and getting my business degree and like networking and sort of getting all the information that I needed to get in order to achieve what I wanted to achieve. And that was so difficult because for so long I relied on what my body could do and not what my mind could do. And so that was really when it started to come together for me. So I guess college, really.
Yeah. Now in college, you finished Albany, and my understanding is that your brother went to Juilliard.
Yes. Yeah.
And he like really pursued the professional dance and was in some Broadway shows. Like was really all about it.
Yes.
So can you walk me through his journey and then what led you both to forming Capital District Arts Initiative?
Yeah. So, yeah, you said it right. He went to Juilliard. The laundry list of, shows and credits that this kid has. He is so talented. Like, how lucky am I to have someone to look up to in that way? And he was doing, I believe it was West Side Story, the revival of West Side Story, when the whole world shut down because of the pandemic, and especially in the city, like there was just so many things that were unknown. The pandemic was very bad, and so his trajectory kind of changed. It brought him back to Albany, and for all of us it was just kind of like, oh yeah, it'll be 2 weeks, oh just 1 more month, oh yeah, just 2 more months, and then it was way longer than that. And we were at our childhood home in Colony together, and we both were just kind of like, the world is telling us to do this now. It was something that we thought we were going to do when we were 10, 15, 20 years down the line, like finished with our performance careers, like finished doing everything that we wanted to pursue as artists, as dancers ourselves. And that is not how it happened at all. We were just in our childhood home, and we were like, I think we do this now. And so it was August of 2020, and we were in the basement of our home, and we were just like, okay, and we're going to do it. And this is how we want to do it. And this is the trajectory that we want to take it, and this is what we want to call it. And it just kind of all happened from there.
Yeah. So what types of programming do you do, and
Mm.
what ages of people do you serve?
So we go as young as toddlers, so like 2 to 3. That's who I work with. I work with anywhere from like 8 and under. I work with them all, but my starter classes are all like 5 and under, 6 to 8 year olds. And then we go up through about like age 18 competitively. And then we offer adult classes up from there. I shouldn't even say that our stuff that is offered for teens is just for the teens, because even I like hop into classes. I have friends who are in their 20s. We have adults who are in their 30s and 40s who come and take those classes just because yes, do they draw a majority of teenagers? Absolutely. But our program really focuses on having like a really inclusive mindset. So if you love to dance and you love to move your body, we have classes for you, and you can come in and you can take them. So that's a majority of what we do on the dance side. On the theater side of things, it's mainly in the teens, 6 to 8 year old kind of age range as well.
So when I was younger, in middle school, we had like a flamenco dance workshop.
Fun.
And of course, me being me, fell in love with the choreographer. Just this like gorgeous Argentinian woman. And then I'm pretty sure it was the same woman a few years later who then was the choreographer for our high school production of Fiddler on the Roof.
Oh my gosh.
So I've always just loved dancers and just dancing as an art form. But in a more serious question, when you see these kids, having worked with them, what's it really mean for you to see their journey, to see their progress in whatever type of session you're working with them on?
I said rewarding earlier, but it's just so nice to watch them realize who they are, like as they're going through this journey. Like they are learning as much about themselves as they are about like dance and technique and like all of that. They're really coming into who they are as a person, and the fact that I get to have kind of like an impact on them in that way is, one, crazy, but two, it's just nice because you get to know who they are down to their core. Like dance is just such a vulnerable art form, and it's really difficult to not get vulnerable because of how emotional it is and how much you have to connect to yourself and to your body and to the people around you and like in your energy. And it's just so fun to watch them. One, sometimes they doubt themselves. Two, sometimes they're so confident in themselves. Other times they don't really know how they feel. And it's just kind of figuring out where they land in that and like what they're realizing about themselves that I love so much.
Yeah, when I was in college, I did a program working with kids on the autism spectrum, and it was a lot of theater for therapy.
Yeah.
A lot of social skills development using improv games, theater games, sometimes dancing as well to like reach kids. Have you seen, I'm just curious, have you seen dance and the ability to kind of process complex emotions and feelings be helpful with any particular types of children on the spectrum you might have worked with in some of your classes?
Yeah, so I haven't specifically worked with any children on the spectrum.
Okay.
But the impact that it has, our dancers got the opportunity. I think it was last June with SPAC. They have a dance program, the Saratoga Performing Arts Center. So they have a program where our dancers got to dance with artists, children, young adults with disabilities, and just watching that happen was so great to me, just as like their mentor, because they got to see that, one, you have to be so grateful for every day, every opportunity, and every experience that you get to have, because your experience is always so different from everybody else's. But on the other half of that was they got to work with them so closely, and it just showed how, regardless, dance is for everybody, regardless of, if you have a physical disability, any of those sorts. So it was just so nice to see that happen.
I love how involved in the community you are with the Capital District Arts Initiative, and we have a connection which you may not know. Your dance partner in that competition is a former colleague of mine, Frank. We
Oh,
worked
okay.
together in the state senate.
Okay, yeah.
And I know
I
you were.
love
I
that.
believe you were competing for Unity House.
Yes.
Of Troy. Can you talk to me
Yes.
about that competition? It just seems like such a
Oh
cool
my
event
gosh.
that you got to do.
It was so fun, and that was the second year I got to do it. The first year, I worked with my partner Kevin. This year I was partnered with Frank, and he was amazing. We did a little Janet Jackson number, and he actually had a little bit of dance experience, so it was super fun. He was so excited to get into the studio again, and it's just kind of goes to show how when you get a good group of people together and they want to volunteer their time for a good cause, like how beautiful something can become. And the event was just so amazing. They gave us the opportunity for our dancers to perform, so it gave them an opportunity outside of competitive dance to just entertain, and to entertain for a good cause. And yeah, I love that event that they put on every year. I'm hoping to do it again this year, but yeah, it's just so fun to be able to come together with someone and just perform and entertain. And yeah, it was a great event.
Yeah, and performing and entertainment obviously is a big part of your life. And I know you're also very involved with the Albany Firewolves dance team.
Yes.
How did that all come to be?
So pre-COVID, I was a member of the Albany Empire dance team. And so I was a dancer, not a coach. The coach at the time, her name is Megan. She's a great friend of mine now. And when the Albany Firewolves, when they came to the area, she was brought on as the coach. She had asked me to assist, but as a coach this time, not as a dancer. And I've just been with them ever since. So Megan and I work really closely together with just a fantastic group of girls. It changes every season, but we have a lot of turnover, a lot of returning dancers, and we rehearse once a week, and they work so hard. They do so much at the games. They, are getting the crowd hyped up. They're dancing on the sides. They're like doing everything they can just to make sure that they're putting the best version of themselves out there on the nights of the games. And it's just so much fun.
Do you have any particular types of dance that you personally enjoy the most?
I love contemporary dancing. It's so emotional. It's very vulnerable. It's just, for me, it just feels so good in my body. And then hip hop is a big one of mine. I love to choreograph. I love to dance hip hop.
Yeah, I love Latin dancing. And
Yeah.
I've gotten to know a little bit about the Latin dance scene in Albany. That might shock some people to actually know there is a Latin dance scene in Albany. It's pretty cool, actually, between the bachata and merengue, salsa. Like, there's a lot of things out there. And I think one of my most interesting memories of being part of Metabolic so far was working out with Allie, who's a major bachata dancer, and then
she's amazing.
Jokingly kind of coming up with a bachata finisher with her. But I did want to ask you now about Metabolic, because that's where we have gotten to know each other. That's where we met.
Yep.
And I think we started roughly around the same time there. So I wanted to ask you, what led you to pursuing Metabolic and joining the Metabolic community?
Sure. So something that doesn't often get talked about, like, I danced so much growing up. I think at one point my senior year, I was dancing upwards of like 24 to 25 hours a week. And that's a part-time job. Like those are a lot of hours to be dancing a week. And so I was so fit. I felt like I was so strong. I was like in my prime. And then I go to college, and obviously I'm not dancing that much. I'm dancing, but not nearly as much. And just like the changes I was seeing, like in my body, in my mental, like it was just stuff that I've never experienced before because I never had the opportunity to. And then I started working out at a traditional gym, and it was great. Like I really enjoyed it. I'd never really done that growing up. And so it was nice to kind of like go in there and get an idea of what that's like. I kind of just got to a point where I was like sick of programming. I didn't want to do that aspect anymore. I was sick of working out by myself. Growing up dancing, I was always in a group setting, like a group classroom setting. And I just was like, I just need to change. I feel like I've plateaued. I haven't really been seeing the results that I was seeing when I first started, which is typical in a fitness journey. But I just felt like there was more that I could be doing for myself. And my cousin Shailene, she works out at Metabolic, and I saw her posting a couple like stories, like reposting a couple of their stories, and I was like, I feel like I would like it, but not sure. So let me ask her about it. She was like, no, you'll love it. My husband was telling me like, you should go. I think you'd love it. It's gonna be such a good push for you. And I went and I took my first class with Peyton, and I just never looked back. And I've been there ever since.
Yeah, my first class was also with Peyton as well. I want to ask you about her a little bit,
Yeah.
but wanted to ask you about the programming and kind of the culture and the environment. I think for me, I look at it very similarly as performing. I jokingly think about it 6 shows a week.
Yeah.
And, whatever the programming on the board, that's the script. And I don't have to go think about it. I'm just
Right.
going to go act it. I'm going to go do it.
Right.
I don't have to direct it, produce it. I'm just acting it. And so
Right.
for me, the coaches are I look at them as performers to some degree. They have to put on a show, like they're putting out
Yeah.
that energy.
Yeah.
For you as a dancer, does any of that align with
Yeah.
kind of connecting to your brain and with movement?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, part of it too is like, you can't just do the stuff that you want to do. Like, they are forcing you to do stuff you don't want to do. And that is really important, especially with having 3 coaches. I mean, now Colony has a couple of more that are in the mix there, but having 3 coaches who just want the best for you, who are in your face saying like, you've got this, you have to keep going, is so nice. Because as a teacher, usually I'm the one doing that with my students, and I'm the one who's pushing them. I'm the one who's saying to them, no, you can do this. Like, there's more there. You've got this. You've got this. But now I get that. And it's so life-changing, because you need that. You need that accountability.
Yeah, I know for me, like I've had a lot of fun going into the metaverse, and I'm a campaign guy, so I'm a branding person. So I love doing that and having
Yeah.
fun with it. And
Yeah.
I've gone to all the studios, I've taken classes with every coach, but that 7-10 energy that we have
Oh my gosh.
in Colony is special. And I think of it, in talking with you, as very much, okay, we are a cast of characters and we're going through this production, in this case, this workout together. We are performing together. Again, like as a dancer, does any of that kind of align with your thinking about kind of being in a dance company and putting on a show?
Yeah. Well, because you can't just think about like yourself. You have to think about everybody that's around you. And so you do it together. And when we show up there, we all have like one goal in mind. We all have the same thing that we have our sights set on, and it's accomplishing that task to better your own self and to better the group. And yeah, absolutely. I think that when you show up, you have things that you want to accomplish, and you do it together.
I think of a movement like a chest press, and I am impatient to a fault, and I'll push myself to a fault. So I have this goal that's very specific of pushing hundreds. 100-pound dumbbells for the chest press. And I'm getting very close to it, but I know I have to just keep being consistent.
Yeah.
But as I've pushed along, I can think of a workout where you and Mac and others were cheering me on, like as I'm pushing through it. And obviously the same goes for you. Can you describe what that feeling is really like to have people in that room just like shouting your name, cheering you on, pushing you to get stronger?
It's the thing that you don't get when you're not at Metabolic. Like that, you underestimate how important or how pivotal that is, because usually when it's just you have that voice in your head that's telling you either you got this, keep going, one more rep, or you have that voice on the other side of it that's telling you you should just drop the weight, or you should just, even if you didn't hit the rep count, like you probably can't do it, so you should just stop. And you don't get that at Metabolic. Or if you have that voice in your head, you do have 3-4 other people who are behind you, in front of you, around you, yelling your name, saying, you've got this, you have to keep going. And you do that for other people as well. And that helps you to be a better person. And so it just kind of feels like this thing where you're pushing the bar, and then you have someone who's like pushing with you, and then you push there, and then they're pushing you with at the same time. And it's so motivating. And like I said, it's just the thing that you don't get anywhere else. you get that at Metabolic because that's how powerful that community is.
It's a special energy,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm obviously in love with it, and it's become a huge part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I wanted to ask you, the community within Metabolic, I know means a lot to you, means a lot to me. And I know that community has also been even more important, probably to some degree, for your faith journey that I know you've been on.
Yeah.
Before we really get into that, though, I just wanted to kind of broadly ask you, having fitness in that community as a major foundation in your life, perhaps faith is one of the answers, but what other areas of your life have you seen improve by kind of making fitness and wellness a foundational part of your life?
Yeah. My first thought there is my mental health, because you have no choice in your fitness journey but to prioritize yourself. And the second you start prioritizing yourself and your physical health, your mental health will start to follow behind. You just have to either say to yourself, I have this goal and I want to accomplish it, or I'm not going to, and I'm just going to kind of slip through the cracks. And it was that decision of telling myself, like, I'm not going to let you slip through the cracks. I'm not going to let you not focus on yourself. I'm not going to let you not invest in yourself and make yourself a better person. So my mental health has just skyrocketed. My self-worth has skyrocketed. My view of who I am as a person has completely changed.
What led all of that in your mind to thinking that you felt called to pursue this faith journey that you've been on?
So faith was something that, like, growing up was not that it was, we were anti-faith. It just wasn't something that was at the forefront. So growing up, I had never been to church. And it just wasn't something that, was prioritized. And so my husband, his grandmother, her name's Maria. She is just the most incredible person. Her faith was so strong. She was always at church, always had the Bible near her, was always reading. She was just filled with love. And she had passed away in April. She was just, I don't think she knew how much she saved me. For privacy reasons, I won't go into it, but there was a moment in time where I needed a place to live. Like, where I was living, it wasn't safe for me, and I just needed to go somewhere else. And she opened up her home to me. The best way I can describe it is just unconditional love. Like, it didn't matter what my situation was. It didn't matter, what I was doing at that moment. She just knew I needed something. I needed a place to live, and she was, ready to give that to me. So, like I said, I don't think she knew it, but she saved me in several more ways than one. And when she had passed, I just felt like I was getting these nudges to start going to church and to start, like, exploring my faith. And finally, one day, I just said, all right, like, I have to do it. At this point, the signs are too great that I need to do it.
What were some of those signs?
So one of them would be, like, I would just be out in public, and I like to converse with strangers, like, even if it's just in passing. And occasionally I would get the, like, they would start to talk to me about their faith, just, like, unprompted. Or we would have a conversation, and when they would leave, they would tell me, God bless you. And I would hear that, and I would be like, okay, there was another one. And then I had met Peyton and Michaela, and they had started to talk to me a little bit about their faith and how, they really wanted to start prioritizing it. And at that point, like, I hadn't taken that leap just yet. And when they had started talking to me about that, they had said, oh my gosh, like, I'm so sorry. Like, we didn't even ask you if this was, like, something that you do. Like, do you go to church? We don't know, like, what you believe. And I was like, it's fine. Thank you for being, like, so cognizant about it. But I don't think you guys understand, like, that was my last push. Like, you guys telling me how you wanted to also start prioritizing your faith also meant that was my last sign that, like, I needed to do the same.
There's this wonderful sense of abandon, I feel like, that comes over you sometimes when you just feel led
Mm-hmm.
to reach out to somebody in that way.
Yeah.
I think of the gentle nudges or the Craig Groeschel just so
Mm-hmm.
happen moments and moments of thinking in life church language of things that lead. And my own journey to metabolic was kind of interesting because I met Johnny and Michaela a month
Mm-hmm.
before my dad died.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd had different people kind of fill my head with different misconceptions, I think, about the community
Sure.
before.
Yeah.
And but meeting them and having the chance to model with them in the Sweat and Style show,
Mm-hmm.
it just left me curious. I was like, I love their energy. It's like, oh, it'd be fun to get coached up by them.
Yeah.
And then my dad passes away a month later.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in this really horrible, awful, disconnected place, very angry, very frustrated.
Right.
And then, of all people, Peyton reaches out to me.
Mm-hmm.
She just sends me a message on Instagram. We'd been following each other, but she felt led to just reach out to me.
Yeah.
And most people would probably never do something like that because it might seem uncomfortable. It might seem like whatever, like antisocial convention, but she did. And I hope she doesn't get too upset with me bringing this up, but it was one of those just unbelievable things.
Yeah.
And it was like, again, like I got to meet this person and kind of see this person in real life and experience their energy.
Right.
And then she was the first person who I had a class with. And then it was just this like energy of just, again, here's someone whose heart is set on fire for what they do.
Yeah.
And that is what has blown me away about probably all the metabolic coaches.
Mm-hmm.
They have that
Absolutely.
to the core.
Yep.
And there is a real gift of service that comes from that
Mm-hmm.
in my mind. So I know that's meant a lot to me, but the relationships you specifically have developed with Peyton, with Mac,
Yeah.
on your faith journey. Can you talk a little bit more about what that group has meant for you?
Yeah. It's been impactful for sure. It's been inspiring because as you get older and you start like becoming an adult, it means more when you have people who are surrounding you with like minds. It's easier in high school to just kind of, run with whoever. But when you get into your adult years, like life gets tough and life gets serious, and you need those people around you who prioritize the same things that you do. And having them there with me, figuring things out. Because like I said, like it wasn't something that I did growing up. It wasn't something that I was knowledgeable about growing up, but just didn't want to, take part in it. This has been so new to me. And so they've really helped me to discover different things that I didn't know were possible.
Being around all three of you has been probably more impactful than any of you know for me. I mean, I love to talk about this concept of angels for one another, but a difference for me is like I really grew up in the church.
Yeah.
My father was a lay minister. I grew up going to church regularly. It was an Episcopal church, very mainline congregation. I went to a Christian liberal arts school, but losing my dad, I'll be very transparent about this. It has put me in a state, and I've been in this state before, where it feels like I'm very much wrestling with faith.
Yeah.
And do you know this story of Jacob with the angel, wrestling with the angel in Book of Genesis? It's one of my favorite stories. And, Jacob wrestles with the angel and then is given the name of Israel. And essentially kind of one who struggles or one who, wrestles with God. And so I always take that from a spiritual standpoint to kind of believe that God honors us when we go through the struggle.
Yeah.
God honors us when we are working through whatever faith questions we have.
Sure.
So it's not easy for me. Like sometimes I sit there and it doesn't land.
Right.
Sometimes I don't know if you feel this way. I often feel spiritually fed a lot more sometimes just working out.
Absolutely. It's the time that you spend with yourself, that it's in those times that I'm spending by myself. Or I shouldn't even say by myself, but with myself, in tune with myself, that I feel the most connected to God and to my faith, because I feel like I'm pouring into myself, and that's when I feel the most love for myself, and that's when I feel the most love in my faith.
I think of somebody like a John D. Michelle, who
Yes.
I had as my first guest, and
Love him.
just an amazing man.
Mhm.
And one of the reasons why I wanted to interview him was he was the same age as my dad when he passed away.
Mm.
And losing my dad, I realized, was this connection that I felt to someone who modeled the image of God.
Mm-hmm.
And so to have people in my mind who are, who's an older male figure modeling that for me is great to be around.
Right.
And I talk about all this not to intimidate anybody or, hopefully make anybody wary who isn't of faith. It's just more so, it's nice to be able to talk with people in a very open way.
Yeah.
That these questions are not easy.
Mm-mm.
And I just want to encourage people that like I'm somebody who can tend to really overthink and over intellectualize all this stuff.
Yeah.
So I even just remember being thankful just to sit with you and to sit with Mac and just, again, wrestle with those things, but not feel alone.
Right. Because it's things that everybody goes through. It's those questions that everybody has. And I think that's why going to Life Church has helped me so much, because they don't shy away from that. That I have sat in on many services where they have said, like, those kinds of questions that you're having are so normal. And they're questions that everyone around you is having.
Yeah.
And so that, especially with it being so new and kind of like foreign to me, it's made me feel really comfortable in exploring what those questions are to then make me more confident and more comfortable in my faith.
Yeah. It's funny because like one of the knocks on metabolic that people would give to me before I joined, and even some of the coaches joke about it with me, is like, oh, it's like a cult.
Yes.
And I joke that, well, one person's cult is one person's community. And I don't really view it as that. But it is obviously a very intentional, very focused community. And to me, that's often the power of being in that room with our 710 crew.
Yes.
It's not just 710. There's plenty of great class times.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I want to, hype up our class time.
Absolutely.
But to be in a room of people, regardless of what your faith is, but just to feel the energy of people all in there for their own individual reasons, I think there's something so powerful about that.
Absolutely.
Known or unknown, that we're all, whether it's mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, we're all wrestling with all sorts of stuff in that room.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's, you come as you are. You can come in and not be in your best self. You can be coming in feeling like your best self. And regardless, specifically with that 710 crew, you're going to leave feeling refreshed and feeling like you did everything that you could do with these people who care so much about you and about your journey.
When I think through the things I'm still wrestling through and working through in my own faith journey and questions, I think one undeniable truth that I really do believe is, number one, that I am loved and that we are all loved. And that is an energy that, to me, is one of the most powerful things of a loving fitness community. And we're, I think, very blessed and fortunate to be part of a great one ourselves.
Yeah.
But when you think about now what you want to do moving forward, now that you have this kind of foundation of faith that you're developing, a growing foundation within fitness, obviously dance, that you have, what's next for you?
Ooh. These last couple of months, maybe even like 6 months to a year, I feel like I've been trying to like reestablish a lot in my life. I've been trying to like get myself onto my own 2 feet, even though I feel like I have been for a while. I just feel like I'm coming into a new season of myself, a new season in my life. And I maybe don't know 100% word for word what is next for me. And that's been a huge thing for me lately in my faith journey, of just kind of like sitting back and trusting that what is meant for me will be, and that I just sort of need to trust that what's going to fall into place will. But I just know that whatever it is that is next for me, I want it to be done in love, and I want it to be done in positivity, and I want it to be with the goal in mind of investing in myself and investing in those around me, because that is, for me, the purpose. Making sure that I am doing things for me, but I'm also doing things with my community and my army around me.
One thing I tell myself is to be present.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much mental health issues that I think often come from anxiety.
Yeah.
And, Tommy Birch, who was my last guest on the show, we talked about energy and motion and how,
Yeah.
So much of us, we deal physically with energy and emotion that's stuck and then releasing that.
Yeah.
But thinking about all the things we worry about. And not that I'm a total stoic, but I do think there's a lot of practical life application to stoicism. But even the Gospel of Matthew has a lot of practical advice to me, which I think people often miss in Scripture.
Yeah.
Do not worry.
Right.
Do not worry. It's right there. Do not worry about tomorrow, for today has enough problems of its own. And boy, can that feel true.
Absolutely.
Day to day.
Absolutely. Yeah. I have hopefully tried to instill that sort of belief or that sort of like mindset onto my students, just because, like you said, like today we just need to get through today. Sometimes we just have to, sure, it's great to plan and think about what's happening in the future, but right now, being in the moment and doing what's needed for right now is more than enough.
I think of that even practically from people who get overwhelmed with even starting on a fitness journey. You don't have to work out like a madman.
Right.
Like, I didn't start out working six days a week. I love doing that now because I'm a madman
Right,
about
right.
it. But like, even when I started, it was just half an hour on the bike, just doing something. And I think of a verse, Romans 12:2. And the idea of, do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed through the renewing of your body, your mind, and your spirit. And to some degree, that verse is at the forefront of my mentality with Built Different. What does it mean to be built different? The world says one thing, but life feels healthy and better when we actually do things a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And prioritizing fitness and wellness.
Yeah. And I think everybody's built different is different.
Yeah.
Everyone's start is different, and there's no one right way to do it. Eventually, sure, like you said, having that routine of being consistent and being there 6 days a week is how you maintain, but just getting it started, just changing the habit and changing sort of like the connection in your mind in terms of your relationship to fitness and yourself with fitness, there's no one way to do it. You just have to start with whatever works best for you.
So maybe to close out, you've gone through an incredible journey. You're still in the midst of it, as am I. For people who might be listening to this, watching this, who feel like they're at that pivotal moment where they know they need to pivot, they know they need to lean into making some changes in their life, what would your message be to them?
You are capable of far more than you think that you are. And there is so much out there for you. You just have to take the first step of it. You just have to grasp onto that little bit of opportunity. And knowing that you need to pivot is part of that first step. Knowing that there is change that needs to be done is the first step. But just taking that first step, taking that little bit of, or propelling yourself forward, is so, so pivotal.
I can't thank you enough for sharing your wisdom and for joining me and just sharing a lot more about yourself, and for me to just learn so much, frankly, from everything you've gone through and everything you're doing and all the great things you're doing here in the community. So
thank you
for
so
spending
much.
time with me.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.